Welcome back, Rankers. Did you have a good week? I did. Let's go straight into a site review today. A little bit different in that this one is about Google News. And I know a lot of you are interested in Google News, especially if you're running news sites, because Google News can bring a bucket load of traffic. Now, you've got to jump through some hoops as well as do your normal SEO. So we won't be talking about the normal SEO today. We're just talking about the sort of hoops that you have to jump through to get ranked in Google News. Okay, the question comes from Kung Fu Warrior. I like that, that's good. Also known as, and I think this is you, Maimuna Gulshan, or as I like to call him, Maimuna, my main man. So, if we go back to your site, which is pakistantoday.com.pk, and hello to everybody in Islamabad who I met a few years back at the Pakistan Broadcasting Academy, and my friends at the Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation and Pakistan Television. Great time, even though I was there during Ramzan. They still looked after me. Now, Pakistan Today, obvious news site. Big news today, by the way. Musharraf accused of Benazir Bhutto's murder. Wow. Okay, on the face of it, you would say, yeah, this is a news site. And had a look at a few things like heading tags and that sort of stuff. That's all there. That's all okay. You're doing that well. But you've said that there's some weird stuff happening and you don't quite understand it. And you've had a look at the old Google News videos and blog posts that I've done. And you've got your numbers in your URL and those sorts of things. You may remember, if you've watched previous shows, that we've said that Google has actually said that you've got to get a unique 3-digit number in your article URL. So they've said basically you've got to have a URL something like that. Of course, without the google.com bit. And it's important that you get that number in the actual article, not in the directory, which, Maimuna, is what you are doing, unfortunately. So what I did, I went and had a look, and we crawled the site this morning with a bot, and you can see here all these stories here. Sure, you've got some numbers here, but they're not unique because they're directories, okay? So you need to get that unique 3-digit number actually in the URL. Now, Google in their guidelines has said that if you submit a Google News sitemap, that they waive that condition because they've got all this extra information in the Google News sitemap, which you said you have done. I wouldn't trust Google. I would also do the 3-digit number. Now, I know that means some major structural changes possibly to the site, and you're going to have to do a whole bunch of 301s if you do that 3-digit number in all those individual articles, because you're going to have to tell Google where all those old articles now are and change the sitemap. And I know it's a big change, but if it was me, that's what I'd be doing. The next thing that you said was that, actually, the one thing that you're doing that, look, it's not essential for Google News, but I think moving forward is something that you should also look at. It's just great that you've got sort of an index of articles by a given author. On these sorts of pages, though, I would get these authors to set up the Google Plus pages. Really simple exercise to do. And get the authorship code at the top of this page, linking back to their Google Plus pages, and get them to link to this page as a contributor. Really important moving forward. So, if we have a look at the index, because one of the things that you've said here is that there's really weird site links, and looking at them, they really are weird. I mean, you look at this stuff here, it's like, it makes no sense, it's not going to encourage anybody to click. And one of the things that I did before I checked the index, I checked the news index, the Google News index, and you're absolutely right that you're not appearing in Google News. So we grabbed a piece of unique text off the front page, then we went into news, and you can see here that this piece of unique text is not found in Google News. So Google News is actually rejecting you. And just on that, you know, even though we've got this unique string of text here, you're still number 3 for it, and you should be number 1, obviously, because this unique text does not appear on the Wikipedia page. So there are some issues there which are really around what Google is seeing. And one of the things that you can do if you think you're having problems like this, or you think, that looks really weird, why is that doing that? Go and have a look at the Google cache and the text version specifically of the cache, because that gives you a picture then of what Google is actually seeing. So we go over here to cached version, and we see and it's good that the cache version is fresh, right? It's got the latest news on it. It's, you know, it was there just a few hours ago, the bot that is at your site. So that's great. But then when you go into the text-only version, here's your weird URLs that are appearing in your site links, right? This, and you can see it's this is what Google is seeing, okay? And I think this is coming from these links here. The article level link that you click on is that weird link. So, but you can see here, what Google is seeing. And these are H1s, so that's good. But you can see there, you might want to have a look at the formatting of not only the links themselves, of course, but where the links are appearing. You can see here we've got some double linking happening. You might want to check what's going on there at that author level, and just try to tidy some of this up as well, because that's what Google sees. All right, so you've got your site links, you've got your cache that you've checked, your URL. They're really the main issues, but the biggie is that you've got to get approved to appear in Google News. Now, my question to you, Mamuna, is have you actually submitted to Google News? Because until you do, you're not going to appear in Google News. So you've got to actually physically go and submit through the submission page and get approved. And Google will tell you, usually, if there's something wrong. If you just get a flat rejection, it's because of all these other issues that I've just pointed out. I like the look of the site, though. I mean, to me, it's a good, newsy site. And the thing that Google needs to see with these unique URLs is basically they need to see one article per URL, or each article needs to be at its own unique URL, which you've done here. The only trouble is that there's no 3-digit number here. And look, there could be something in the sitemap. I've had a quick look at the sitemap, but I can't see anything obvious. But I wouldn't trust Google to say that we waive this 3-digit number in the URL if you have a Google News sitemap. I'd get it in there anyway, because they need that unique URL to say that this is where this story resides and it will always be here. They need to know that that isn't going to disappear in the near future or change in the day. The other thing is, you know, some of the other rules is you're probably going to be doing at least 3 articles a day. It certainly looks like you're doing way more than that, so that's great. The content looks unique. There doesn't seem to be any duplication, as we saw from that search. So that's great. So everything else about the site is going really well. You just need to fix those other things. And hopefully that's helpful, and we'll see you next week. Oh, and Mamuna, Bahut Shukriya.